All right, let's talk about something you see literally every single day, but probably don't give a second thought to. I'm talking about the secret life of diagrams.
So, when you see a flow chart at work, right? Or maybe just a quick doodle on a whiteboard, what's your first thought? What do you think is really happening there?
Is it just, a simple sketch, a handy visual to help wrap your head around a tough idea? I mean, for centuries, that's exactly what people thought. They saw them as a helpful tool, sure, but not the real deal. But what if I told you that a simple drawing could be as rock solid and as powerful as a complex mathematical proof? Well, it turns out it can. We're going to see how some diagrams can be what logicians call sound, meaning they just don't lie to you, and complete, meaning they can say everything they need to say. And that is one heck of a surprising journey. Okay, so where does this all begin? It starts with challenging a really old prejudice, one that was baked right into the world of formal logic. You see, for most of modern history, logic had this clear pecking order. You had sentences and symbols on top. They were the gold standard, the only way to build a truly rigorous proof. And diagrams? They were way down at the bottom. People saw them as just messy little sketches, imprecise, maybe even misleading. They were like the scratch pad you used to find the proof, but you'd never, ever let them be part of the final proof. But, that view just didn't sit right with everybody. And so it kicked off this incredible, centuries-long quest to build a diagram system that could finally stand on its own 2 feet, shoulder to shoulder with all that text-based logic. And this wasn't a quick thing. This quest played out over hundreds of years, with each thinker kind of passing the baton to the next. It really gets going with Leonhard Euler and his simple circles. Then John Venn comes along and makes them more systematic. After that, the philosopher Charles Peirce just supercharges the whole thing, adding all this new power. And then, the grand finale, in 1994, Sun Ju-shin puts the final, crucial piece in place, proving once and for all that diagrams could be totally formal, complete systems of logic. Game changer. So let's go back to Euler for a second. His idea was just brilliant in its simplicity. You want to show that all A are B? Easy. You just draw the A circle completely inside the B circle. It's so intuitive, right? You just see it. But, and this is a big but, it had some major flaws. Sometimes it was ambiguous, and even worse, there were some perfectly logical things it just couldn't draw. You couldn't represent certain consistent ideas in one diagram, and that was a huge problem. And this brings us to this great trade-off, this central tension in the whole story of diagrams. As thinkers like Peirce started adding more logical firepower, symbols for things that exist or for empty sets, the diagrams started to lose their magic. They lost that simple visual clarity that made them so great to begin with. In fact, Peirce himself complained that his own system was getting way too complex. It's like the more powerful they got, the less intuitive they became. And then, the breakthrough. This quote right here from the mid-90s, this is it. This is the mountaintop. This is the moment when logicians finally proved definitively that there is no fundamental reason a diagram can't be just as rigorous as a sentence. That old prejudice, it was finally, officially over. Diagrams had earned their seat at the table of formal logic. But with great power comes, well, a unique set of pros and cons. This newfound status wasn't a simple upgrade. So what is it that makes thinking with pictures so different from thinking with words? Okay, one of the coolest things about them is this concept called a free ride. This is going to sound a little like magic. It's when you carefully draw out all your starting information, your premises, and the conclusion just, poof, it's right there. You don't have to do another calculation or take another logical step. You just read the answer off the picture. It seriously feels like the diagram did the heavy lifting for you. But this power has a dark side, a flip side. For every amazing free ride, you run the risk of what's called a forced conclusion. This is where the simple act of drawing on a flat piece of paper, the physical limits of it, actually forces you to draw something that isn't logically true. The diagram itself can literally trick you into making a mistake. Let me show you exactly what I mean. We're going to walk through a perfect example of this deceptive trap. It's a classic little puzzle from math, but don't worry, the idea behind it is super simple. Okay, so picture 4 different groups, or sets. Let's just call them A, B, C, and D. Now, the only rules we have are that any group of 3 of them have to overlap. So you start drawing, you get A, B, and C to intersect, no problem. Then you make sure B, C, and D intersect, still looking good. But by the time you've managed to draw it so that all the different groups of 3 overlap, you see what happened? The simple geometry of drawing circles on a page has forced you to create a little area right in the middle where all 4 circles overlap. The diagram makes it look like it's a fact that A, B, C, and D all intersect, even though our rules never said that. That right there is a forced conclusion. So you see, this whole thing, understanding diagrams as real, formal systems, it's not just some abstract puzzle for logicians. No way. It has huge implications for how we think about, well, pretty much everything, from the human mind itself to building smarter AI. And it all leads to this massive fundamental question in cognitive science. Do we think in pictures? I mean, when you're reasoning something out in your own head, what's going on in there? Is it like a running monologue of sentences? Or are you moving around mental images, like pictures? This is the absolute core of what's known as the imagery debate. It's a huge controversy. On one side, you've got the pictorialists. They argue that our minds literally use picture-like representations. They have all this data to back it up. But on the other side, you've got the descriptionalists. And they say, nope, deep down, it's all language. They believe our thinking is built on structured descriptions, and any pictures we think we see in our heads are just side effects. And what's so cool is that the formal study of diagrams gives us a whole new toolkit to try and figure out this debate. And believe me, this isn't just for academics in ivory towers. The principles we're talking about are absolutely everywhere. I mean, they're the foundation of ancient geometry, going all the way back to Euclid. They're at the heart of quantum physics with things like Feynman diagrams. They're crucial for knot theory, for designing software, and even for the graphical user interface on the very screen you're looking at right now. So this whole journey from a simple sketch to a formal proof, it really leaves us with one big, final question to chew on. If we, as a civilization, were basically blind for centuries to the deep logic hidden inside a simple drawing, what else are we missing? What other forms of truth, what other ways of understanding our world are we completely failing to see right now?